Okay, Fritz. So could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, my name is Fritz Pointer. I am raised in Oakland, born in Arkansas actually, but raised in Oakland. My family came to Oakland in 1944. We lived on 18th and Adeline Streets there. My father was a minister. Moving fast forward ahead, I had an athletic scholarship to attend Creighton University, where I played basketball for 4 years. Upon graduating from Creighton University with a degree in English and sociology, I went from there to UCLA, where I did a master's degree in African history. I returned to Oakland and worked in the community, developing a cultural center that became kind of a fixture of the North Oakland community. We helped students receive scholarships, found work for them. We were a clearinghouse for speakers and information about Black life and urban life. And after a few years working there, I returned to graduate school and went to the University of Wisconsin in Madison, Wisconsin, where I did a second master's degree where I majored in African literature, both oral and contemporary written literature. Following that, I returned to the Bay Area where I worked at Contra Costa Community College. I skipped over something. I must say I spent 6 years in Iowa teaching at Luther College in Iowa for 6 years. And then after that, I returned to Oakland and worked for Contra Costa Community College for the next 30 years.
Could I ask you, why did you decide to become a member of the Democratic World Federalists, and why did you choose to become a part of the board?
Why I choose to become a part of the board? Well, I worked in the community and, as I said, teaching African history and African literature. And my focus has been primarily on the Black community. However, after retiring, and which I've been retired now for about 5 years, and after retiring, it seemed to me that the issues were bigger than just Black people. I knew that back in the day, but I didn't know it quite as poignantly as I know it now, that the issues we face in the world are global, they are intersectional, they are, international, and that focusing strictly on just the Black community was not enough for me. And finding out about the World Federalist movement through Roger Cotilla, who actually is a neighbor of mine in Novato, California, in Marin County. I found out about World Federalists through him, and he encouraged me, and we talked. He encouraged me to see if I would like becoming a part of World Federalists. When I heard what their mission is, then that encouraged me even more. It excited me even more that I became a World Federalist because I think that world law is necessary for world peace. I really believe that there are countries like our own, actually, and others, Russia, China, that are acting outside of international law. And I think that we need a world body, a world federal union of countries that will participate in governance that will be for all people. And for this, of course, I recognize countries may have to and should want to give up some of their sovereignty for the sake of especially some of the existential threats that we face, the most poignant, the most pressing being nuclear weapons and nuclear war, but also climate and climate change and sustainability issues. So I became a World Federalist because that's what World Federalists are focusing on, reforming the United Nations World Charter to make it more accountable and more responsible and more representative of the world community. And that's what Democratic World Federalists are focusing on. And so that's the primary reason that I became a part.
Could I ask you, what do you think is the biggest failing of the current global political system, trade system, human rights, any of those things? Like, what do you think is the greatest failing from the current established order?
I think the greatest failing for me is the inability to stop war, to prevent war, and also the concentration of wealth in the hands of the 1%. And I think that that structure, that economic structure of capitalism, that is draining, the world's resources, that the price is becoming too much for the world to bear to support this 1%. So I think that the number one issue today is, for me, is preventing war, and especially preventing nuclear war, but also changing our model of economic development so that we can be a more sustainable economy, more sustainable development, and that we would work and that resources could be used for the majority of people and not just for the few. So that is what I think is. Now, on behind that, underneath that, side of that, is the issues of race, the issue of racism, the issue of this myth of superiority that we still are confronted with, that affects both gender relationships, interracial relationships. And so I think that race is still a major factor in international relations, and so I think the combination of economics, war, and race, and gender, and climate are just somehow intertwined in a very complex and very oppressive way.
If you could do one thing in one plan or something like that, how do you think we could reach a democratic world federal government throughout the world?
I think people have to accept the fact that capitalism has failed. It has failed the world. Of course, it's good for the capitalists. It's good for those who are in control. But I think we need to really understand the benefits and the of socialism, and I think we need to understand the workings of a different economic system that works on behalf of people, the majority of people, and not just for the few. So I would change, number one, the economic system. It's hard to change people's thinking about one another. It would be wonderful if that could happen. But my hope is that if we can change the external or the material culture in such a way that it benefits all, that we would have a better chance at understanding the equality of human beings, in terms of just their own capacities and their ability to contribute to civilization and to culture.
Last question. What is your vision of the world if we did accomplish democratic world federalism, and if we actually accomplish some of our goals concerning human rights, concerning development, concerning the environment? What would the world actually look like?
I think the world would, the world would be a place where cultures would share, where people could travel freely throughout the world, that people could share, cultural ingredients of food and dance and music and literature, and all of those things could be shared and could be promoted and could be accommodated in a world federal system, that we don't have to be exclusively contained within one cultural or one political or one economic idea, that we should open up our minds and open up our hearts and open up our souls to a variety of ways of being, and that I think the world would look like the place that some of us say would equal almost a kind of heaven here on earth, if that's not too optimistic. But I think we can certainly do better in terms of sharing the world and sharing the world's resources. That would be my hope, that we could share the world and share, with one another, and then develop an appreciation and develop a respect for and acceptance of one another's differences, and that we would welcome those differences, that we would encourage those differences, and that would be my idea of a more of a bliss, well, certainly a more righteous, a more fair world. I think we could have. So that would be my idea.
And just to finish up the whole thing, you want to just give 30 seconds or a minute of like how you like to finish this up, what you want people to think when they listen to this and they watch it?
Well, a couple of things. One, I'm also a writer. I have written two books and finishing a third. My topics have been South Africa, Alex Laguma's work. I did a biography of Alex Laguma. I've also done a book on African epic literature, and I'm now completing a book with my sister, Anita Pointer, on the Pointer sisters' family history. And if people take away anything from me, it would be, of course, my love of humanity, my love of life, and my love of all people.